Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Vijender Singh Tawar, Associate Professor in English, and at present, I have been posted at Government College Gudha in the Jhanjhana district. In the series of video lecture, which is being prepared by me, today's video lecture is meant for the students of class BA Part 2nd, Subject English Literature, Paper 1st. And in this video, we are going to talk about the explanation of Arun Kolhatkar's famous poem, An Old Woman. As you know, we have already done one poem of Arun Kolhatkar's, The Bus. This is the second poem which we are going to take up. So first of all, we should discuss about the life and achievements of Arun Kolhatkar. Arun Kolhatkar was born in 1932 and died in 2004. He was born in Maharashtra in India. We can say that he was a Marathi poet. He was a very famous poet in various fields. He was a versatile genius. He showed his talent in various fields. He started composing poems not only in his mother tongue Marathi but also in English. So we can say that he is a bilingual poet, that is, who composes poems in two languages, Marathi and English. As we know, he is an Indian, so his composition in English made him Indo-Anglian poet. And his poems can be termed as his contribution in the Indo-Anglian poetry, and it is very considerable. And on the strength of his contribution in the Indo-Anglian poetry, he is recognized, he is reckoned among the dozen or so major Indo-Anglian poets. He has composed two famous poems. One is Jejuri and another The Boat Ride in English. Both these poems are the collection or anthology of small poems, sequence of small poems. And his long poem Jejuri was published in 1976. As I have told you just now, it is a poetic sequence and it won him the Commonwealth Prize for Poetry in 1977. His poems are very small, but they are realistic in nature. They depict the reality and present the reality. He composes his poems on Indian themes. That is, he selects only Indian subjects to compose poems. His sensibilities are basically Indian, which is reflected in his poems. Poverty, hunger, and starvation are the chronic ailments of Indian society. Means India has always suffered from these problems. And these problems are taken as subjects while composing poems in Marathi as well as in English by Arun Kolhatkar. So we can say these problems, that is problems of poverty, hunger, starvation, they find place in the poetry of our poet Arun Kolhatkar. Now let us come to the poem. The poem is entitled An Old Woman, and it has been taken from his long poem Jejuri. When last time when we talked about the bus, we came to know about Jejuri. The Jejuri is a pilgrim center in South India. It is situated in Maharashtra, and The exact we can say situation or location of this pilgrimage pilgrim place, it is situated to the southeast of Pune. Khandoba is the deity or god who is worshipped there. People visit Jejuri because of their religious sentiment. And as far as our poet is concerned, or the protagonist is concerned, he has visited Jejuri not because of religious sentiment, but because of out of curiosity. He describes his visit to Jejuri. He presents a very faithful record of his impressions. Means realistic experiences have been presented in the form of poems. He finds the temples in ruins and ill-lighted, the roads rough, the water supply defective, the beggars persistent. Means these problems show that though it was a very religious place, but it was not a well-developed place. Like other parts of India, it was lacking behind or far behind as far as progress is concerned. The hill ranges dominate the prospect. Because there it was hilly area, so it was very attractive also. Now let us come to the explanation of the poem. As we know, the poet has visited Jejuri and it is a religious place. There are many temples. God Khandoba is worshipped there, and there are many other temples related with Khandoba's various, you can say, worshippers and helpers in the form of animals and human beings. So, what the poet says? He says, suppose you are walking, roaming in the streets of Jejuri. What happens? An old woman catches hold of, catches you, hold of your sleeves, part of garment that wholly or partly covers person's arm, that is this part, and tags along, walks along, follow you closely. She catches hold of the person's sleeve and walks with the person. Why? She wants a 50 paise coin because she is a beggar, you can say, or she is very poor. She is a very unfortunate lady. She is very unfortunate lady, and she makes her living by just getting or just begging from the travelers or pilgrims. As it may not appear begging, or she may not be a beggar, she says she will take you to Horseshoe Sri. Horseshoe is another famous temple in Jejuri, where the horse of God Khandava is worshipped. So she says she will show you that temple. She will act as a guide to show you that temple. You have seen it already. But the problem is you have already seen it. So you are not interested in that. So you want to get rid of that lady. But she hobbles along. Hobbles along, walks along lamely, like a lame person. Anyway, and tightens her grips. She tightens the catching or catch hold of you tightly of your shirt. She won't let you go. She will not allow you to go freely. She will allow you to go freely after giving her some money. Means the person become in a very different situations. The women will be insistent. The men may want to dismiss her because she is an old woman. They cling and won't let go. You know how these old women are. Means if you are Indian, you can have the first-hand experience at various places, particularly of temples and other crowded place. They stick to you like a burr. Burr is a plant that stalks of which cling to a person who touches them or stands too close to them. Means they will not leave you, they will cling to you. You turn around and face her with an air of finality. Means final position. The man will turn and about to end their association, to put her in her place and demand that she leave. But she will look at him. You want to end the farce. Farce, funny position means you are in a very strange position or situation and you want to get out of it. So you look at her with an air of finality. You want to stop all this. You want that she should go away. But when you hear her say, but suddenly you find that the old lady, when she finds physically weak, she says, what else an old woman do on hills as rest as these? She puts a question that she has no other alternative except begging, because she lives in such a place where there are only hills, there is no productive land, no other source of income, no other way to make her living. That is why she is just begging here. So when she explains that there is little else left for an old woman to do in the hills where she lives. How can she live? She seems to imply. Means she wants to say that it is her compulsion to do such kind of things. You look right at the sky. The soap the poet receives is looking at the sky, perhaps as blue as the woman's eyes, clean through the bullet holes she has for her eyes. But what stops him in is the sense that her eyes are like bullet holes. This image is shocking and riveting, as is perhaps his enlightened perception of this woman and her connection to this old land. And as you look on the cracks that begins around her eyes, means cracks here you can say wrinkles on near her eyes spread beyond her skin. You find that the man or the poet will note that as he looks as the woman, the cracks around her eyes, the cracks will seem to spread to the landscape around her. That is, she is full of sorrow, but not physically, but inwardly also. She is suffering. She is not enjoying begging. She is doing everything in compulsion, as she has no other alternative. And this sorrow is not visible only physically, but internally also. And you look at the hills crack, you find that the landscape around her are just cracking. The temples cracks, the sky falls with a plate glass clatter. Clatter sound creating around the shatterproof crown. Crown here means old woman. Means the cracks around her eyes, the cracks will seem to spread to the landscape around her, to the hills, the temples, and even the sky. But the poet will see as he watches that even though the sky may fall and shatter, sky may fall and shatter around her, she is untouched because she is shatterproof. She is who stands around, and you are reduced to so much small change in her hand. Means, and you feel as if you have been reduced to a known entity. Small change literally means the coins of small denomination which people have given to this old beggar woman and which she is holding in her hand. That is small coins of 1 paisa, 2 paisa, 5 paisa, 10 paisa. Metaphorically, small change means insignificant or trivial. Means in the midst of the life that has reduced her to trying to earn some money as a guide for tourists and seen only an old woman to the tourist, not worth their time and barely worth their notice. Her resolve is strong. She is part of the land as old as it is. She is immovable. She lives, the man will see with what is made available to her. It would seem that in the face of the man's realization, he will feel as if he has been reduced to nothing more than his money, for he does not have that kind of connection to his land or his heritage. And perhaps in the light of the trials and tribulation of life, he is really the unimportant one beyond the small change in his pocket. But she stands unbreakable and strong. Means she is there and she is stronger in her approach than the person, than the pilgrim, you can say, to understand it. The pilgrim is not following his religion, his belief seriously, whereas the old lady, as she lives in that kind of surrounding, she is very serious in her demand. That is why the poet feels that he is insignificant. His value is less than the small coins which she is holding in her hand, who might have been given, that they might have, or which might have been given to her by other pilgrimage. Thank you very